This is Boss Hogg Radio, home of Born to Ride Radio.
Born to Ride is sponsored in part by Rubenstein Law, 1-800-FL-LEGAL, representing riders since 1988. Offices throughout Florida, 1-800-FL-LEGAL.
Everyone was right, I was born to ride.
Born to Ride is a multimedia marketing and promotional machine with TV, magazines, streaming radio, and internet advertising opportunities. There are tens of thousands of motorcycles. We reach the people who ride them. Born to Ride. Find out more at borntoride.com.
You can join the motorcycle enthusiast conversation at 863-225-2000. Now, here's more of your hosts, Fester Jenkins and Mama Dukes, on Born to Ride Radio.
And welcome back to another edition of Born to Ride Radio this Thursday evening. Yes, sirree, the 14th of January. Already 2 weeks of January up and gone. Joining me in the studio, I've got Mama Dukes, Ron, and Debbie Galletti. We've got Dave Letterfly from, what does he call his business there?
That's Mr. Letterfly
Mr. Letterfly himself there, okay?
Yeah.
And in the background, we got Kelly. Okay. She wants to say anonymous, but, we got Kelly. And, of course, DB's operating the cameras for us tonight like he typically does. Thanks, DB. No problem. Okay. And we've got a special guest here that's a artist, has more than 4 decades of doing hand-painted pinstriping and all sorts of things. You want to do the introductions there?
Oh, man, I'm just telling
Ron?
you, what a great show tonight. Hopefully we can get him mic'd up so he can talk to
here.
us. All right, so he'll be able
there
to
you
talk
go.
to us. Guys, we're in for a treat tonight. We have a world-known, renowned traveler, because he's the traveling airbrush himself, man. He goes to all the rallies all over. He's a man of the world. He's a Renaissance man. He's a bohemian himself, a creative guy. I mean, we're so honored to have Dave Letterfly with us today. And, he specializes in all types of art. He can do murals. I've seen amazing work he's done. Today, he's in the studio with us, and he is painting a bell helmet for Chopper Town. And Deb, is that awesome?
It is. It really is. It's quite an active studio tonight, right, guys?
Yeah.
Love it. We're not just all four staring at each other.
It's kind of interactive. That's what's cool about it.
Interactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the paint fumes smell pretty good, too.
Well, I was thinking about that, by after an hour of smelling paint, we're going to all be in a great mood
We
here.
should be. Wait, Boss has this on his desk.
Yes, everyone, now the Dr. Brown CDB, he said
CBD.
CBD.
Oh, that's
CDB was
licorice.
an old
Okay,
pizza
okay.
joint.
You aren't feeding that to the boss, are you?
Actually, he
Is
had,
that what you guys
he
were
had half of them, but supposedly one's enough. Okay, just one strawberry licorice stick there.
So Boss has been nibbling
That's why he's been in such a good mood.
He's been nibbling
Well,
on the happy hemp.
If it works, go with it. It'll probably help your bones and your aching, everything else. But Letterfly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how you got started and what's going on.
Are you a multitasker?
You know that I am. Yeah, I've been painting since I was a child. I noticed when I was big enough to see out of the car when I was riding with my dad, I noticed the little designs on the other vehicles. And I had the thought, I could do that. As soon as I got home, I got some paint, and I started decorating my wagon and my tricycle and stuff. And the other kids in the neighborhood noticed I was good at it, so they'd talk me into doing something for them, and they'd say, and I'd go, yeah, I could do that. And then I'd be thinking the whole time, why don't they just do it themselves? So, yeah, I've been painting my whole life. I started as a kid painting stuff.
What is art to you, Dave?
Art?
Yeah, what is it to you?
It's probably an excellent way for me to express myself because I have been, I guess you'd say, initially I was hiding behind a brush. I was doing this as a way to fit in, I suppose, and then it turned into my vocation. I've been painting. I've been a freelance artist my entire career. I started as a sign painter, and I actually was painting signs before I really knew how. I had the opportunity to apprentice under the tradesmen back in the 70s. Those opportunities are gone. And I worked alongside a journeyman lettering man that lettered signs all day long at the shop and learned the trade. And then as soon as I started matching my paycheck on weekends, went back to freelancing. And I've had to reinvent myself because, as you're well aware, signs aren't painted by hand anymore. The computers do it today.
Right. A lot of cut and dye.
Yeah.
Type.
The end of the 80s, I had to reinvent myself, and I was in the right place at the right time, and I found a huge market for putting murals on motorhomes with the airbrush. And it required that I travel to find the work. I would chase the work because the motorhomes would be clumped up in a different location every week. And so I hit the road, and I'm at home on the road because right after high school, I took my set of drums and joined the circus. I played the drums in the circus band. And
What circus was that?
oh, a bunch of little ones, Clark and Walters and Fisher Brothers and King Brothers Circus, a bunch of little ones. Yeah.
Where is it that you grew up?
I grew up in Ohio.
Oh, best place ever.
Yeah, you know it.
What part of Ohio?
Springfield, Ohio. I grew up right on the Wittenberg University campus. And it was the best place on the planet to grow up. It was a great place. And then we moved a couple times when I was in high school. We moved to Indiana University, Bloomington, Indiana. And that was the perfect place for me at that time in my life because I was on fire to become a drummer. And that was a great music school. And
Well, with colleges, I'm going to guess parents or one of the parents a professor or teacher
yeah, they
or
were
something?
always associated with that. Not necessarily a professor. My daddy was a minister, and he was involved with public relations with the university. And my mother was always in charge of the piano department. She was a piano and voice teacher. She was also an opera singer. So I grew up with creativity all around.
Definitely talent in the family there.
Yeah. My dad during World War II illustrated flight manuals. So I suppose I got some of my creative skills from him. And my great-grandfather had a crew of men, and they went all over the country and put the decorations on the insides of theaters, you know, the floral designs and the scrolls and the scenes and stuff, like in the Tampa Theater and the Polk Theater, back in the days when you'd use the railroad train to get to the next place.
Now, you guys can't see the detail of what's on this helmet, right? You can just
The glare right now at
Right,
this
we
part,
see a
as
little.
far as Facebook. I mean, we can see it here in the studio, but it looks like on the video, it's kind of a glare problem right now.
I know
So,
it's not going to be done tonight, but I'm so excited to see it when it is finished. The detail of what he's got drawn on there. Did you freehand this?
Yeah, it's all drawn by hand. I do everything the old-fashioned way, by hand. And I've drawn so many and painted so many images. I've got a lot of them pretty much memorized. I know what they look like. People say, could you make me an eagle? And I was like, oh, yeah, I've done so many eagles. I got those memorized.
So if you're doing them freehand, then each one is a little bit different from.
Yeah, they're like snowflakes. Every one of them's a little tiny bit different.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, even tattoo artists these days are using some type of a template first before they get right into inking. It's all changing, right?
It's a different it just depends on the level of the ability of the artist. There's tattoo artists that rely upon the sort of a catalog way of conducting business. It simplifies things. You get the customers to go to a catalog and select something, and then there are other tattoo artists that create one of a kind pieces of artwork that for the sake of creating something totally unique for their customer.
Now, on a helmet like this, about how long does it take you from start to finish?
Well, when I have the luxury of time, I would take and do some of the process, because what you're going to notice as we go along in this show, as I get wet paint all over this helmet, and you notice that I'm resting my little finger, as I get wet paint all over the helmet, the level of difficulty will increase, because I've got to avoid sticking my finger in the wet paint. So when I have the luxury of time, I'll do a certain amount of the job, and then I'll let it dry, and then go back and I can. But we don't have that option here at the show tonight, so we're going to just keep painting and keep talking until everybody's happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you said get your hand all wet with paint, you ought to be left-handed and try to write in a notebook your whole life. Your hand smudges. You think Sharpies doesn't come off? You're right. So, out of curiosity, Dave, how many motorcycles do you think you've put your name on over the years?
Oh, thousands.
Thousands, huh?
Yeah.
And you're going to be at Thunder by the Bay in February.
Thunder by the Bay. There's actually an event Saturday. This Saturday, it's the Big Boy Toys with barbecue and a band and bikini, bike wash, and all that kind of stuff at Rockstar. But it's more than just motorcycles. It's the Big Boy Toys, the big four-wheel drive stuff, and they're going to have some boats there. And
that's in Fort Myers, right? Rockstar Harley Davidson. You're going to be there for what, 4 days?
I'll be there for the entire week, because the following week they're having demo rides. The Harley Davidson semi full of the 21 models will be there for demo rides.
Finally, 2021.
Yeah, we've been waiting long enough. So
Yeah.
I'll be at Rockstar a total of 9 days in a row, starting on Saturday.
Wow, that's a long time.
It's a great store. Have you been to that store lately?
Yeah, it is pretty cool. So you'll be there. What?
I'll be there setting up
Pinstriping
on Friday, which is tomorrow. I'll be setting up at Rockstar, and then the Big Boy Toys is Saturday.
So should they make appointments to get in, or you just kind of take them as they come? And
Both. I've got people that have already called and reserved time. I got a man coming over from Miami on Monday.
what's he gonna get?
He's got an Indian, and he wants an Indian, an image of an Indian on the tank. He's not happy with the logo that comes on the tank, so we're going to do something better.
What's the wildest thing you've ever done?
The wildest.
Body paint.
Painting, that is.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you mean with
With
my
your
clothes
with your
on?
brush, yeah. With your clothes on. I'm sorry.
Orgies.
How's he on body painting?
Clarify it there, Deb.
This is Born to Ride.
Do you know the word pinstriping is so close to pin stripping? It's hard.
Sometimes when I'm at an event and they've spelled that word wrong, I'll clarify that, and I'll go, hey, are you guys wanting me to remove my clothing?
I better check the spelling on that.
Well, what are some of the wildest paintings or things you've done to a motorcycle, or
Wild.
even in the art field alone? Everything.
Yeah, lots of stuff. There are people that will ask me that question for a specific reason, and that usually is when I tell them this outlandish thing that I did for somebody else, they'll say, well, I want mine to be even more out of the show.
Out of control.
Yeah.
Always having to up your game, huh, Dave?
That's right.
So share a little bit of it with us, man.
All kinds
you know,
of
just like something that pops to your head. I know you've done a lot.
Oh, just lots of odd things. Like, how about a
Now, one of the photos that we're showing on Facebook right now from your website that DB had grabbed for you was a female laying down, looked like in a cloud-like. But do you do airbrushing also? Because that looked like it was more than just simply, brush there.
airbrush? Yeah, I do airbrush also. My main gig for 20 years was putting airbrushed murals on motorhomes. So I'm very, very proficient with the airbrush. Typically at the Harley Davidson stores, I stick to doing the work with the brush because I can knock out a project like this in a relatively short period of time, where an airbrush project takes longer, much longer.
Yeah,
Okay.
with layers and everything.
Do you prefer this over the airbrushing? Which do you?
I don't have a preference. What happens with me is I become all on fire about some specific aspect of the trade, and then I will want to do that when I was a sign guy, I wanted to do some what they call chipped glass work backed up with gilded gold leaf and that kind of stuff, which is stuff that they did back in the 1800s. And I did a bunch of that, and then I got my fill, and it's like I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing now with some of the things that I do. So I've done overall paint jobs and images of all sizes, and I actually like working on motorcycles the best because, like right now, I'm sitting in a chair, I'm working on a manageable size project, and I have the ability to talk to my customer and get to know them and what do you call it? Cater to that aspect of the motorcycling brotherhood, fellowship type thing, which is important to me, being I guess a people person. It's interesting that at the beginning, I think that I probably used the artwork as a way of withdrawing from society and ended up becoming found a way to become connected to society as the result of what happened as the result of going through life experiences and stuff. So,
All right, so your hat, your jacket, your shirt says Letterfly.
Letterfly.
Is there a story behind it?
Yeah, there sure is. See, 'cause when I was a teenager, I was Crazy Davy.
Crazy Davy.
Yeah, and Crazy Davy worked great until I met about 5 other Crazy Davies. And then I figured out, man, I need to have a name that's a little bit more unique. And what I discovered was I figured out that if I was Letterfly, that would suggest that I was proficient at lettering, because I started as a lettering guy. So it was like Letterfly. And the other thing is my name, my real name, Noterer, on the poster, it's Noterery.
Oh, yes.
My real name is a name that nobody can spell
Or say.
or pronounce or remember.
You mean
So I
Kanata?
knew I didn't dare use that name.
Kanata isn't your
Yeah,
name?
see, you couldn't say it either. So,
Look, we spelled it wrong on this promo.
so that's what Letterfly works. Don't feel bad, you guys. My senior year in high school, the yearbook had my name misspelled 5 different ways. So it's like I've sort of gotten used to it.
So now you're back to Crazy Dave and everybody's on board, right?
Crazy Davy, yeah, that was like an improvement.
Well, how did you come up with Letterfly? Tell us about that. How did it just strike into your head? Say, I'm going to be
it just came
Letterfly.
to me. Well, I was actually hungover one morning. I had been thinking about how
Wait, who can think
I was
when they're
searching
hungover?
for this. I was searching for this ideal name. I was in South Florida. I was actually at the Polo Grounds. I was lettering the box seats, and lettered the scoreboard. Everything was lettered back in those days, back in the 70s. And that's where I came up with it out of the blue. It came to me. I went, letterfly. And then I went, oh.
What about pieces? You were mentioning the seats and so forth. I know boats are popular as well, and everyone has their name on their boat.
Boats, yeah. I cut
popular?
my teeth. I cut my teeth lettering boats. When I was an apprentice sign painter, I was actually I worked in Longwood, Florida, and I was at the marina on Lake Monroe at Sanford every Sunday. And I never blanked out. I always had a boat to letter, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. And usually I ended up finishing up my work and spending the rest of the afternoon on somebody's boat with them out on the lake.
Enjoying the yacht club, huh?
That's a nice
gig.
culture. Yeah.
Well, we had the luxury of setting up next to you at Thunder by the Bay last year.
Yeah.
And it was just, not only were you there doing your craft, you were part of the show. I mean, everyone just was gathering around you. First of all, your VW, that's awesome that you ride in on. Tell us about your VW.
VWs. I've been working out of VW buses my entire career. They're like the perfect vehicle.
How did I know that?
They're like the
when
perfect
she said
vehicle.
VW, it had to be a bus.
It's out there now.
I mean, back in the 70s, it was the perfect conveyance. You could live in it with your dog and your girlfriend and go all over the country, and it was just enough room to haul enough stuff to do what I wanted to do, be a sign painter. The sign painting skill, I discovered I could go anywhere and find work. So it was like suited me just fine, because I apparently must have that a certain amount of gypsy in me, because I'm still doing it. I love traveling all over the country. And,
Just love being a nomad, huh?
yeah, I love it. I have a route of Harley-Davidson stores. And so the summer months, when you guys are all down here in 100-degree weather, I'm up north. I go pretty much between Philadelphia and D.C. and that whole area all the way out to Chicago, the Northeast to the Midwest. And I've got Harley stores I go to every year. And we lucked out this year because COVID had shut down all the big events.
It's done
and
quite a
I had
number,
already
yeah.
been developing a route of Harley stores, and they all wanted me because they couldn't have a party in their parking lot because they were being discouraged from gatherings of people. So it worked out perfect for me because they were still interested in having something in the parking lot they could advertise to their customer base to come visit the store. So we actually had a good summer once it, we got past the
initial
hiccup.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What about the biker lifestyle itself? What about the people that you meet all around the country that are bikers? And what do you think of those people? What kind of people are they?
Well, it's pretty much the same group as I served when I was putting murals on motorhomes. The people as a whole are people that typically they love each other. They love adventure and excitement and seeing new things and getting out and doing stuff. And that's the one thing that I've noticed with this COVID thing. It didn't stop the bikers. The bikers got on their bikes and got out and did stuff,
on their COVID machines.
They didn't stay. Yeah, they didn't stay home and stuff. So, and it's a cross section of the country. It's not typically what the stereotypical biker is anymore. They're all wonderful people and professional people, and I've painted something on a motorcycle for a lady who wrote the computer program for the space shuttle to lay over on its back during liftoff.
What did you paint for her?
Oh, I forget. I got a confession to make. I have a standard answer when somebody asks me, "Well, hey, what did you paint for them?" Because I don't have any really a good way to remember what I've painted. I've painted so much stuff. And the other thing is, if I say that I painted an eagle, I've got a 50-50 chance of being right.
Right.
So I'm taking it. The eagle is the most popular.
I paint a lot of eagles.
Featured item in your shopping cart.
Yeah. Get an eagle. Yeah.
And if you like the eagle, you would like the red, white, and blue flag, right?
Definitely.
Well, that's patriotic. That's American, right
Well,
there.
Speaking of eagle, she was dumbfounded this weekend.
Mama Dukes was?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I was more fascinated.
Oh,
Okay.
Fascinated.
Much
Okay,
better
okay,
word than
okay.
We're not gonna-
dumbfounded.
Okay.
Fascinated.
We were over in the Lake Hamilton area looking for a new tower site, piece of property this weekend, and lo and behold, there was just this huge bald eagle sitting on top of a semi-truck trailer right there by a shipping company.
Awesome.
Wow.
And I was fascinated by it.
She says,
Cool.
"Look at that! Is that an eagle?" I said, "Yes, it's a bald eagle." She says, "Well, what's it doing there?"
They're bigger than you think, man, when
It
you
was
really
huge.
see them.
It was huge. I really wanted to be like a tourist and be like, "Can I please go back and take a picture?" But he was already giving me crap about it.
Yeah, because you were being
Such a
dumbfounded.
Yeah,
Such a beautiful
exactly.
creature.
See, it's the American thing. You should always be excited when seeing a bald
Yes,
eagle
it
Okay.
is.
and a dolphin.
Dolphins too in the wild, yeah. And to have Dave in the studio today doing his craft is, not everybody can pick up a brush and paint and have the vision to just do it for 4 decades. So that's really a rhythm that he's got going. And how important is art in your life, Dave?
I am relentlessly creative, and it doesn't have to necessarily be painting stuff, because I'm an author. I started writing newsletter content, and I've got a client base that receives my newsletter, and right now I've written enough stories. I've got enough for several books, and so that's the next ambition. And as I get, just like I mentioned earlier I became fascinated with glue-chipped signs and gold leaf gilding and all that kind of stuff. And now, whenever I'm using my imaginative mind to think of stuff, I'm thinking in terms of how I'm going to put that into a story, and how whatever it is that I mention would be hopefully inspiring to somebody. Because, and just like your cameraman noticed this morning, I was at Toastmasters this morning, and you called me to say, "Hey, make sure you call Fester to put in a plug for the show." And so it was during Toastmasters, and I'm thinking, how am I going to fit this in? It's at the exact same time, and I'm already busy. And
What is Toastmasters, though, for someone who doesn't know?
It's a club where we get together to learn speaking and leadership skills.
Oh, so it's not toasting?
No, actually, no.
I went straight to food.
Food, huh?
What is that? A group of people get around creatively?
It's been around a long
Worldwide.
time.
Oh,
long,
shit.
long
Been around
time.
for a long time.
I was dumbfounded
Worldwide.
on that one.
It's like-
Yeah, and it's part of what my ambition, as I think in terms of the future, is becoming even more of a storyteller. That's why whenever I get an opportunity like here, it's like, for some reason or other, I always volunteer. Sure, I can do it. Because this might lead to the next great creative thing for me to become involved with. Not only to inspire others with stories and experiences, but to help develop my speaking skills, and maybe you'll be interested in reading my book.
Everyone should be interested in hearing you as well. You have a big presence. You're about, what, 6 foot?
19 hands.
19 hands. He's a thoroughbred.
What's that? So what's that about 6'6"?
6'4", yeah.
6'4".
6'4", yeah.
So you're larger than life all the way.
Pretty much, yeah. I've got to thank the circus for an awful lot of my way of being. It taught me the entertainer's mindset. And then I also have to thank what I learned when I was the resident artist over at Lazy Days, because that's where I learned the hospitality mindset, because the founder was creating a place for people to come and his intention was he didn't want anybody to even consider going anywhere else. It was all about hospitality and providing outstanding service. And I carry that energy that I've accumulated along the way into the Harley-Davidson community that I serve. And that's part of the reason that they enjoy having me at their dealership year after year after year, is because not only can I provide a service that helps them elevate pride and ownership with their customer base, but I can add a little bit of spark to the experience at the store, especially if they're going to have garage night or Hogg chapter meeting or something. I can get up there and get my straw hat and my cane and give them a little song and dance.
Entertaining as well.
Yeah.
So have you always, like ever since you were little, did it just come naturally to draw?
Yeah.
Because I can barely draw a heart. So some people, Fester, he can.
I came home from kindergarten one day and my mother said, "What'd you do in school today?" And I handed her this paper and I said, "Oh, the teacher made us paint something." And I handed her this paper and she took it and she was like amazed. She said, "Wow, it looks like a bowl full of fruit." And she saved it and ended up framing it, and now I have it in my home.
That's awesome.
So it was 5 years old. It's obvious. And so because my mother noticed that, and she was already involved with the creative arts, I never got coloring books. I got blank sketchbooks and all kinds of gear, paints and stuff.
That's sort of like me. I was very creative as a kid. I drew comic books and drew all the time. But we got to go to our break. We'll be right back with Dave Letterfly painting in the studio, a helmet, and telling the story of Letterfly. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Cool.
Check out the all-new BornToRide.com with radio, TV, industry, adventure, events, magazine, social media, and much more. It's the all-new BornToRide.com.
Hi, I'm attorney Robert Rubenstein, and this is Rubenstein's Rules for Personal Injury. Rule number 1, get an attorney. When you or a loved one have been injured by another's negligence, an experienced attorney can make a huge difference. At Rubenstein Law, we will find all of the insurance, make sure your injuries are documented, and work to get you the best result. While each case is different, a well-known insurance company's own study showed people with a lawyer on average got more money. Call Rubenstein Law at 1-800-FL-LEGAL.
Find us on Facebook, Born to Ride TV and magazine, the ultimate multimedia biker experience.
This is Boss Hogg Radio, home of Born to Ride Radio. You can join the motorcycle enthusiast conversation by calling 863-225-2000.
That's right, folks. If you've got a question that you want to ask Dave Letterfly while he's in the studio doing the painting, he seems to be multitasking. What do you think, Debbie?
Oh, most definitely. And or as Dave Nichols would say, absolutely. Where is Dave tonight? We miss him. One thing I appreciate is when someone has a God-gifted talent, that they use it in their life. And if you look at Dave, this is a God-given talent, and he rolls up with a paintbrush, a Dixie cup, right? And you just create, and it just creates.
And the coolest little painting table. You see that?
Exactly. A little nice little.
How old is it? How old's your table over there?
Oh, I built that kit probably
We got to get a picture of that.
10, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's wonderful
Have
because
Doran get a picture of that too when you get a chance.
there's a lot of people that talk about have to create some type of education, some kind of talent, some kind of trade, and so I think that's nice when you actually use it. So,
and while we were at break, we were talking. He actually does classes and teaches the skill, the trade there.
Yeah, we call it the Custom Paint Workshops. It's the first week in February every year, right at my home. It's not a big, we don't have a big turnout. We try to limit it to 8 students, and usually it's 4 or 5. So it's intimate, and we get a variety of people with various levels of ability. One guy was he was in charge of the paint shop at a big Toyota dealership up in Pennsylvania, and he knew everything there was to know about paint. He just wanted to learn technique. And then somebody else was a bare bones beginner, and we needed it. So, and because it's small, it's typically a small group, I let the group drive the agenda, so that and I have passion for the work, and it's been real helpful for me to pass along the techniques that I'm familiar with in teaching form, because it forces me to put them into words so that I can describe effectively, because a lot of this is a feel. It's the feel of the.
So if someone wanted to take one of your classes, how could they find out all the information on it?
Well, you go to my website, which is letterfly.com, and then work down through the pages, and you'll find the information about the class. And there's this, you click a link, and it takes you over to a blog page where the syllabus is, so you can read all about what you can expect to accumulate while you're there, and all kinds of stuff.
Now, Dave, you also specialize in murals. Murals isn't very easy, because the perception of that, and you gotta, when you take a small picture and then make it large, there's a lot of perception on that, I guess is what you'd call it. What's the key to doing murals? And I mean, you've done them all over the country, right?
Yeah, I sure have. And I've done a couple of 1,000 murals on motorhomes. And a mural, or actually like a pictorial, it's actually an even more vast and complicated endeavor to paint an image that creates the illusion of being something that's real than it is to take a giant piece of marble and a chisel and carve something dimensional out of a piece of stone. So it's vast. It's just a vast field, and you're never done learning. And when I was painting all those murals on motorhomes, I was in the habit of attending artists' workshops all over the country in the midst of all of this, just to keep learning more and keeping it fresh, and it's exciting. It's exciting when you learn something new and have the ability to put it into practice, and then end up with a customer that's tickled. I had a customer come to me one time. He said, "I'd like to have Jesus being baptized by John the Baptist on the back of my motorhome." And I said, "Sure, I could do that for you." And he had asked 5 other artists to do that, and they go, "Oh, no, we could never do that." And it wasn't impossible. It required doing some research. And we ended up finding out that there's actually a mural in the St. Nicholas Cathedral over in Tarpon Springs that has St. John the Baptist with a shell pouring the water on Jesus right there in the church. So we were able to go over there and study the artwork, and then as the result of that, go there and satisfy that customer.
Wow.
So you have a photo photogenic memory or photographic memory?
I don't know about that. Maybe, I guess.
Take a picture of it. But what about
There's this
like,
thing called a camera.
Yeah,
Yeah, reference.
2021.
you got dumbfounded.
The girls aren't winning in this radio show tonight at all.
What about murals on a building for like someone who's listening right now that has a building? They always want cool artwork on the building, and they want to hire someone to do it, man. I mean, I think that would be great for some stuff for you.
One of the biggest things that I ever painted was the story about doing the job is actually in this week's newsletter. It was when I was in the sign business up in Michigan. They wanted a giant Citgo logo on the outside of one of those giant tanks that they keep fuel in. And the painters had just finished with painting the inside and outside of it. And before they took the swing stage down, they wanted this big logo painted on it, way up in the air. It was huge. And when I was trained as an apprentice sign painter, we learned to scale up things with a yardstick. All you needed was a comp, a drawn to scale composition and big enough to hold in your hand, and then you took a yardstick and you studied it, and as the result of making some mental calculations, you took the yardstick up against the building and then put your lines where they were supposed to go. And so that's something that's, to me, it's just
second nature now
because I've done it my whole career. And all of those murals on motorhomes started with a composition sketch. And once I had all the problems figured out in the composition, then I'd scale it up to the size of the back of the motorhome. And same thing with whenever I did other huge things, ceilings in homes and big giant walls and stuff, and insides of Harley stores. It was fun doing some of the stuff I've done inside of Harley stores.
Like what?
Well, they at a Harley store up in Virginia, they wanted a motorcycle looking like it was bursting through a brick wall.
Okay,
imagine that.
And so I had to accumulate the reference I needed. So I put a motorcycle and a motorcycle guy, one of the mechanics one of those guys that was voluntold to help me, right?
Voluntold.
Yeah, he was voluntold.
We know all about that at Boss Hogg Radio.
That's a good one, man.
We put him on the bike and then put the bike on the lift because I needed to get a reference picture from the underneath side of it. And so I got the reference pictures I needed, and then I made my composition sketch and then scaled it up on the wall and got the painting on there for him.
So now on your website or where is there somewhere where somebody can go and see all the work you've done?
All kinds of stuff. Yes, you go to letterfly.com.
And all the answers are there.
Letterfly.com.
That's twice now.
Definitely, yeah.
Now we ask this question a lot. Like, everybody always has the same answer. Oh, I have so many. But do you have what's your favorite or your most
favorite thing of all in my whole life to paint is horses. I had horses for 30 years, starting with performing circus horses. When I was in my 20s, I had an old man from Oklahoma taught me how to have a 6-pony, what they call a Liberty Act. I had an act on the circus, and then in the course of 30 years, I made 3 dancing horses. So I absolutely love horses, and if somebody says, what would you do if it was your motorcycle? My standard answer is, I'd paint it yellow and put a winged horse on it.
But I'm going to say an eagle.
An eagle, yeah.
That's kind of that letterfly thing,
I was
right?
going to say, it's your logo.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a winged horse on just about everything I own.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Dave, when you talk about art, who are some of your influences or people that inspired you in art? Was it Picasso, Van Gogh? Was it Cubist? Was it surrealism? Or just what type of art really got you going to open up in them? Or Dali? who started out as a regular artist and then went crazy?
Yeah, there's a lot of artists, but I don't know. Actually enjoy the stuff that was done by Dolly and all of those people, but I was more influenced by Mad Magazine.
There you go.
And Rat Fink and those kind of guys, comic books and all that kind of stuff.
So do you do much pen and ink?
So did you
comics?
do a lot of rat rods or things like that?
Yeah, I do the pinstriping on rat rods a lot, and back when I was a sign painter up in Michigan, we had a man in Jackson, Michigan, who restored antique fire engines, and I would help him, and he would get an old fire engine, and we would like sand through the layers of paint that had accumulated on the thing over the years, and we would uncover the original decoration that was put on it back at the turn of the century or something, and make patterns and then restore it, and then all of that stuff was done with gold leaf and little flourishes and designs and all kinds of stuff. Because, see, you got to realize the origin of this stuff was the result of the pride of the tradesmen that used to build stuff. This is long before mass production. It used to be things were produced in a shop, probably as big as this building, by a crew of maybe 4 tradesmen, and they built a wagon or a carriage or a bicycle one at a time. Mass production hadn't come along yet until Henry Ford. And so the finishing touch that distinguished their product from the guy across the street who was building essentially the same thing was the pinstripe, because those wooden joints where they fit together, when you run a pinstripe over the top of it, that establishes that joint is perfect. There's no wobble in the width of the line. So that was the origin of the reason for it. There was like a function to establish that ours is the highest quality of all. And in the beginning of the fire engine era, it was before it was a municipal entity. They were individual fire engine companies, and what they did was they wanted to create the premise that their equipment was better than anybody else's, and the way they did that was with elaborate decoration.
And gold leaf is a great special technique.
Yeah.
Where they kind of like spin it in with the gold, right? With real gold. Yeah. I know Billy Stevens from the Iron Horse Saloon, he would get old ambulances and fire trucks, and they'd do gold metal flake, and or they'd do the gold painting like that. And we did a feature on it one time, the specialty of just gold leafing, and it's amazing what you just told us, because a lot of people don't even know anything about history of how you stood out like that in a shop because of the personality of the artists themselves. And the final before they go out the door was exactly what you said there about the how their art leaves a mark for life and who they are.
Yeah. Now there are other artists beside the fine artists who have influenced me, and those were the great gold leaf artists and mural artists and those I guess more of a working class type of artist instead of the elite, the fine artists.
What about Von Dutch?
Von Dutch, he's credited with the beginning of the modern pinstriping, which is he was the guy that would put a design he would make a design and it was so he was in the right place at the right time and created a trend. He started a trend.
What do you think about graffiti artists? I mean, I see a train go by and I think, wow, that's beautiful. But then I'm like, oh, they defaced the train. But they're incredibly talented. What do you think about graffiti artists?
Yeah, there's I've got it's an emerging style that is quite contemporary right now. I actually got a friend up in Orlando who has a background similar to mine, and he joined that movement, and he will go into a restaurant and do the graffiti style of decoration, because apparently nowadays you can get a whole set of replacement tips for rattle cans that will do specific things.
Really?
Like
Okay.
fine lines with sharp edges and wide areas to fill them in and stuff. And so, that's the, what do you call it? The market following the demand of the, what do you call it? Trend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's another place to be creative, and there's lots of variations of things that can be done, like when you see the street artist in front of the nightclub, and he's out there with rattle cans and pots and pans, and he's making a living making art.
Yeah, street art, street musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of contemporary art comes from that. It's like the blues, rock and roll music that drives the beat, the heartbeat, the passion of what everybody does. It all came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And
and they give it a new twist.
Yeah, and then it becomes commercialized.
Yeah.
It's like tattoos. Now it's before in the old days sailors had them. Now corporate people, everybody has tattoos, and there's tattoo shops on every corner, and it's like the in thing now. So I think if you stay true to what you believe, we're coming. The show's flown by, guys.
Yes, it had just flown by.
One thing we always ask everybody that's our guest is, when you've done something for 4 decades, and there's got to be some success there, some driven success. What's the secret to your success?
Probably the secret is I'm driven. Well, I'm actually a driven soul. So Kelly will tell you I don't have any trouble whatsoever with getting, and I'm all constantly having an idea. So maybe my secret to my success is the imagination that I have, because I'm constantly thinking of another idea of something that can be done.
Now,
and I don't sit still very well. Maybe that's the other part of it.
You've been working on a bell helmet, which is a round, object today. As I'm watching you, I'm thinking, there's got to be different dynamics. In other words, a flat canvas is typical of what you think of with art and everything. But whenever you start having the shapes of motorcycle tanks and fenders, things like that, in other words, that's just got to compound the level of difficulty of pulling off the artwork and making it still look aesthetically proportionally correct, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's a lot easier to work on something flat and square. But yeah, and when you're trying to put a design, especially one that wraps around a tank, the tank is the shape on the bike that's the complicated one. And so, yeah, it just requires a different mindset, creative mindset to do that. Yeah.
So
and, yeah, there's always something.
So about how much you've been working on this? We're coming up on an hour now.
Okay.
What does this helmet that's going to be at Thunder by the Bay, about how much time are you going to have in this helmet?
Oh.
Any idea?
Look,
are you still, is it a process where...
Let's do a mental review here. We're going to look at what we got on here. What I'm going to do is, as you saw, I already stuck my finger in it there. and I've got just a fraction of the work done on it. So with using the luxury of time, maybe in about 5 hours, I can have it done. A grand total of about 5 hours.
He probably has, maybe 40 minutes of it after stopping and talking.
Right.
Yeah,
So
we've been
about-
distracting
Yeah,
him, and
so-
you've been doing a great job by painting and talking at the same time. We didn't want to distract you, but we wanted to talk to you the whole time.
Exactly,
So
that's the whole purpose.
there's no rush on it. I mean, it's not till February, so you could even finish it up at Thunder by the Bay that last day if you'd like. But I'm going to leave that up to you, Deb, because you're Letterfly, and whatever your vision is, I will love it, and people will love that.
Look at the detail
We'll
on
cherish
her high
that,
heels.
you know, that's-
yes.
It's like the sign. Look at the sign in the back there that Dave did for Choppertown. Born to Ride Choppertown. Is that amazing? That is art in itself right there. The sign, that's old school too, man. And that's how you did that. How did you do that? You just had a vision.
That's a result of my background as a trained sign painter. Because when we talked, we decided on. I asked the questions, and we decided on Old English. I had the sign already made in my inventory. It's old fence boards.
That's awesome.
I'm kind of an accumulator, and I didn't want to throw away those perfectly good fence boards. I just
Heck no.
Accumulator. Accumulator.
feel good, you know?
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry, Ronnie. I've been calling you a
Yeah,
whore
yeah.
all these years.
Accumulator.
What was the other one? Volunteer? What was it?
Voluntold.
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 Yeah.
We're going to make
Oh
a
my
sign
God.
for here.
The accumulator. I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah,
It was hoarder. I'm sorry.
Well-
Junk hunter.
Well, man, it's been amazing tonight to have Dave in the studio. Dave, is there anything that you'd like to tell the viewers out there about art, about Letterfly, about staying true to your beliefs or true to your passions? You know, motivate someone, get them off the couch to be creative. How is being creative a part of people's lives to inspire them to get out and do something?
Well, if you had the ability to go inside the mind of an artist, you would find out that the things that are going on in my mind are stuff like, oh my God, I hope that nobody notices that. Or, oh my God, you know, and stuff. And I think that the insecurity, even though we're laughing about it, is part of the syndrome. And so my word of advice to another fellow artist or somebody who is a wannabe is to realize that the success is not permanent and the failure is not fatal. It's part of the process, especially when we're involved with stuff that's cutting edge, when we're exploring new territory. We're going to have these things occur that aren't perfect and don't resemble the original concept. But there's no reason to stop. The thing to do is to continue taking that next step forward and become unstoppable. Driven and
Awesome.
unstoppable. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you want your bike pinstripe, painted, murals, anything like this, you better tell your Harley-Davidson dealer to hook up with Letterfly and get him on this route.
And he'll be at Choppertown, Thunder by the Bay, and he'll be
Yes, in
set up there, so
February.
get ready
One
there
more
as well.
time. How can they find your work?
How can you find out about more information about Letterfly? By going to letterfly.com. Letterfly being Letterf as in Frank, Ly. Letterfly.com. And while you're there, send me an email message and tell me you want to sign up to receive my newsletter. And then you'll start receiving these fascinating stories that I write when I'm not creating beautiful works of art.
The traveling airbrush.
All right.
Tales.
Thank you
Traveling
so
in-
much.
All right.
All
Round
right,
of
man.
applause.
Yeah.
Yay. Great show. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Let's get busy with some happy hits.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode of Born to Ride Radio on the Boss Hogg Radio Network. And as usual, enjoy your weekend, but stay safe, keep it in between the ditches, and until next week, enjoy.
If Instagram is your thing, we're there. We're everywhere. Follow us at #Born to Ride Motorcycle Media, your #1 motorcycle resource.
Yeah, I have to say, Born to Ride has been a big influence on my trailer sales in the last 2 or 3 months. It's been nothing but a big surprise. I mean, the magazine articles, everything in the commercials, it's been nothing but the best of help to me in my business.
Is your business becoming invisible? Create a great advertising relationship today with Born to Ride. Call 888-795-5779.
This is the Boss Hogg Radio Network. 1170 AM WKFL Bushnell. 1330 AM WWAV Lakeland Plant City. 1360 AM WHNR Cypress Gardens Winter Haven. And 1390 AM and 107.5 FM WAVP and W298BU FM Avon Park.
Do you think your volcano will win at the science fair? I know it will, Bobby. I added 3 times the amount of